on surgical oncology. Now, the surgical oncology is a very broad topic. It actually entails a lot of topics na medyo will also try to explain, if you read the books regarding surgical oncology, we'll try to explain the pathogenesis, pathophysiology of some cancers that needs surgical management. When we talk about surgical oncology, it simply means you have a disease, cancer, malignancy, that as part of the treatment, you need to excise. Kailangan mo siyang tanggalin. It may either be neoadjuvant muna, treatment, surgery, then adjuvant after. Or surgery, then adjuvant treatment. Surgical oncology, as I've said, is a very broad topic. Even residents in FEU and also in other institutions are really having a hard time trying to grasp the idea of surgical oncology kasi very broad talaga siya. No? And this is one of the topics during board exam or even certifying exam in specialty, in surgeries per specialty na medyo nahihirapan talaga. So in my lecture, I will try to, as much as possible, be very brief, be very concise, and I tried as much as possible not to use very highfalutin words that will try to confuse you more in the topic of surgical oncology and in general surgery. Kasi sabi nila laging mahirap ang surgery. So I tried as much as possible to be very simple in my lecture. Okay, so the epidemiology of surgical oncology, as the population ages, oncology is becoming a larger portion. Surgeon is responsible for the initial diagnosis and management. Now, gone are the days wherein you have one doctor that will manage a particular patient. Kunwari may cancer siya, that certain doctor will try to manage his or her cancer, his or her comorbidities. Siya rin ang mag-manage ng lahat. Kung diabetic yung pasyente nyo, he will also be the diabetologist. Kung may kidney problem, siya din ang magiging nephrologist. So, you have one doctor that will try to manage everything. Problem is, the cure rate, yung paggaling ng pasyente nyo is very low kasi nagiging experimental. But in modern cancer therapy, approach in cancer, surgical oncology is already multidisciplinary. It simply means merong isang doctor who will do the surgery. You have medical oncologists that will address the adjuvant therapy after surgery. You also have radiation oncologists. And if we are dealing with a very young patient with a breast cancer that needs reconstruction after surgery, you also need a reconstructive surgeon. Primary care physicians are also very important in managing patients with cancer. So, ang cure rate for cancer in modern ages is very high. Maganda ang nagiging cure rate natin. We actually achieve disease-free survival ng mga patients natin. But the disadvantage of having lots of doctors is of course monetary. Ang laki ng nagagastos ng pasyente. Unlike isang doctor, isa lang ang babayaran mo. But then again, mababa naman ang cure rate mo. Mataas ang recurrence. So, much better na we have multidisciplinary approach. Two heads are better than one, sabi nga nila. So, how does cancer happen? What is the biology in cancer? There are essential alterations in cell physiology that dictate malignant growth. One, you have uncontrolled cell proliferation. No? You have also loss of apoptosis. No? And then you have tissue invasion and metastasis and angiogenesis. Actually, angiogenesis muna ang mauuna, no, before invasion and metastasis. So these are the basic essential alterations in cell physiology that will dictate malignant growth. Okay? So let us discuss one by one. So first is your uncontrolled cell proliferation. You have abnormal signal transduction. We have all learned this in medicine. No? First year, you have cell, you have nucleus, and that particular cell will produce ligands and receptors for growth factor para lumaki yung cell mo. What usually happens in malignant cell is you have gene over-amplification. No? Nagkakaroon ng mutation. So you have overproduction, overexpression of ligands and receptors. So ang dami niyang nakukuhang growth factors. So that particular cell, no, will actually grow very big. No? And it will try to infect other cells. No? So other cells will also have overexpression of receptors that will accept growth factors. So lumalaki yung cell mo ngayon. No? And these particular cells, no, dahil malignant na sila, no, will undergo cell division, no, mitosis. No? So tuloy-tuloy yung cell division niya. No? Hindi siya uncontrolled cell proliferation. So, and then eventually, no, pag marami na yung cell mo, you will now have a tumor. No? Isang malaking tumor. No? So this is what usually happens in uncontrolled cell proliferation. Now, our body, this uncontrolled cell proliferation has many definitions. No? You have somatic mutations. One of them is your somatic mutations. This leads to the selection of cells with increasingly aggressive behavior. It may either be gain of function or oncogenes or loss of function by your tumor suppressing genes. Now, our body has a way of combating this uncontrolled cell proliferation. No? You have the programmed cell death, apoptosis. No? This is very important, no? Because it actually balances, no, the proliferation of cells in our body. No? So kung every day you have 50 to 70 billion cells daily, death every day. So it actually balances yung proliferation ng cells. But in malignancy, wala kang apoptosis. You have loss of apoptosis. So hindi namamatay yung cells mo, but dumadami ng dumadami. Okay? Ano ba nangyayari in apoptosis? So usually a cell, no, has a certain lifespan. No? Pagka namatay na siya, it actually shrinks. It releases your mitochondrium. You have fragmentation of cell DNA, and eventually you have cell breakage. All these fragments will be swallowed up by your phagocytosis. The good thing here is you do not, body does not produce any inflammatory reaction. No? Wala kang sears. So every day nangyayari yan just to balance the cell proliferation and cell death. That is very important. Yeah. But again, the problem with malignancy, no, malignant cells, they do not have apoptosis. So hindi sila namamatay ng kusa. So if you now have a tumor, no, a tumor that is growing big, no, it will definitely require additional vasculature. So how does it do that? No? It actually, the tumor excretes proteins, no, that will stimulate blood vessel growth. So paano niya ginagawa yon? So ang tumor mo will excrete matrix metalloproteinases that will try to break down your extracellular matrix, your basement membrane. No? Once it breaks your ECM, now it will release vascular endothelial growth factor that will adhere to the endothelial cell lining of the nearby vessel to stimulate, no, vessel growth. Okay? So stimulate niya yung endothelial cells. No? Magkaroon siya ng bagong vessel going into the tumor, no? Para magkaroon siya ng sustenance. No? So pag meron ka na ngayong vessel no, it has additional sustenance, no, it will grow more. Lalo pa siyang lalaki ngayon, no? Majority of the time, no, pagka we excise small tumors, no, small tumors, ang nagiging na-encounter namin problem is yung angiogenesis niya, no, yung vessel niya. Talagang malakas ang bleeding if you do not able, you will not ligate, no, yung vessel, feeding vessel niya, talagang madugo siya ng gusto. Now, if you now have your own, the tumor has its own sustenance, no, vessel, no, going from nearby vessel, no, going into the tumor, the next thing it will do in all malignant cells, it will invade and it will metastasize. Okay, definitely, no, invade and metastasize. This is true with all tumors. Okay, so ang malignant tumors natin, no, malignant tumors, no, how does it invade? No? If it has already a vessel on its own, no, from a nearby vessel, ang dali niyang pumunta, ang dali niyang kumalat, ang dali niyang mag-invade. No? But most of the time, they try to invade also the lymphatics, no, yung green na nasa baba na lymphatics. Majority of the time, no, especially breast cancer and other cancer, no, they try to invade first the lymph vessels. No? They also invade vessels, no? Vessels, no? But majority of the time, ang kinukuha talaga nila lymphatics. Okay? Now, once they invade, no, next thing they do is to metastasize. So, pag na-invade na nila yung lugar, no, ang majority of the malignant cells, what they do is look for an organ that is a very weak lining or thin lining and very full, lots of vessels. No? One good organ, no, that describes this particular organ na hinahanap ng malignant cell is your liver. So majority of metastasis, no, ng solid organs, no, napupunta sa liver. Kasi yan yung pinaka-perfect na organ na pinupuntahan ng malignant cells. No? So once it secures its attachment and goes into that organ, no, it divides, it goes into mitosis and then repeats the process again. So meron ka na ngayong from primary tumor, kunwari sa colon and rectum, you now have a secondary tumor sa liver. So that is what your cancer biology, yung process ng cancer biology. But let us try to define ano ba ang invasion, no? Cancer invasion. In situ cancer, you will encounter this when you go into third year and discuss some of the disease specifics, no? Especially melanoma, malignant melanoma. In situ cancer means malignant cells appear to lie exclusively above the basement membrane. So wala ka pang actual invasion of the cancer cells. The only advantage of in situ cancer is ang management is actually very easy because you just do a wide excision and that's it. No need to address the local and regional spread and also your systemic spread. On the other hand, if you have an invasive cancer, malignant cells are demonstrated to breach the basement membrane and penetrating into the surrounding stroma, then we have a much different approach in the management. Kasi not only you remove the malignant cells, the malignant tumor by doing a wide excision or resection, you also manage the local and regional spread and also systemic spread. So kung in situ cancer, natanggal mo yung tumor, hindi ka na kailangan mag-chemo or mag-radiotherapy or magtanggal ng lymph nodes. But sa invasive cancer, you remove the tumor, you resect, you also remove the lymph nodes, and then you do chemo or radiotherapy to address the local, regional spread and the systemic spread. So, mas mahirap siyang i-manage kung invasive cancer na compared to yung in situ cancer. Now, this is your very popular adenoma carcinoma model of human colorectal carcinogenesis, or adenoma carcinoma sequence. This figure tells us how cancer, no, is initiated, promoted, and progressed into carcinoma and metastasis. So if you have a normal epithelium, no, and then it is hit by your germline or somatic mutation, no, this normal epithelium will transform into dysplasia. So mag-i-initiate na siya, magpo-promote, and then magpo-progress. So this dysplastic tissue will progress to adenoma, no, carcinoma, and metastasis. So what is important in this sequence or model, no? If you look at the picture here, no, you have a normal colon, and then you have precancer adenoma, no, progressing into cancer. The importance of this figure is early screening. So if you are able to detect adenoma on its precancer stage, so ang dali niya i-manage. So pwede mo siyang, you do polypectomy, a snare polypectomy, no? And then that's it. As compared to a cancer, no? colon or rectal cancer, you need to resect the that part of the intestine, and then you do chemotherapy or radiation therapy after. So yan yung importance of knowing that figure, and importance also of early screening. So yung mga parents nyo na 50 years old and above, they should all undergo cancer screening, no? Not because meron kayong cancer sa family, but this is we try to screen as early as possible kasi ang dali niyang i-manage compared sa cancer. So, what about hereditary cancer risk? No? Over 70 cancer genes have been associated with hereditary cancers. Few are oncogenes, but most are tumor-suppressing genes. So, when you rotate in our department, and one of your responsibility as a junior intern is to do a complete history and physical examination. And if you are suspecting cancer, these are some of the factors that will suggest the presence of hereditary cancer. One, tumor development at a much younger age than usual. You have a 20 years old patient who is already diagnosed to have breast cancer. Presence of bilateral disease, right and left, breast cancer niya. Presence of multiple primary malignancies. You have liver cancer. You also have renal cancer that are both primary, not metastatic. Presentation of cancer in the less affected sex, like your male breast cancer. Male breast cancer, 90% of the time, they are positive for BRCA1 or BRCA2, BRCA1 or 2. You have clustering of the same cancer type in relatives. So, mula sa grandmother ninyo, kanununuan nyo, you have breast cancer hanggang sa'yo. So, clustering same cancer type, is actually, you have to be very suspicious kung baka hereditary cancer risk. Occurrence of cancer in association with other conditions such as mental retardation, pathognomonic skin lesions, like cafe au lait spots. Now, BRCA1 and BRCA2, or hereditary ovarian cancers, most famous hereditary cancer genes. 5 to 10% of breast cancers are hereditary. Women with early onset breast cancer, 40 years or younger, nearly 10% have a germline mutation in one of the breast cancer genes, BRCA1 or BRCA2. This is prevalent among women who have first or second degree relative with premenopausal breast cancer or ovarian cancer at any age. And we actually found BRCA1, BRCA2, discovered BRCA1, BRCA2 in population of Ashkenazi Jewish. Kasi ang taas ng prevalence of breast cancer ng magkakapamilya, in Ashkenazi Jewish population. And true enough, nung tinest nila, BRCA1, BRCA2, doon nila unang na-discover. So what is the importance of knowing BRCA1, BRCA2 kung positive ka doon? No? Female BRCA1 mutation carrier, the cumulative risk of developing breast cancer and ovarian cancer by age 70 is 87% and 44% respectively. So imagine, at 87% ang breast cancer. Ang taas. One good example of this is Angelina Jolie. She tested positive for BRCA1, so she decided to have prophylactic breast mastectomy, not to lessen the risk of having ovarian cancer in the future. Now, as I've said earlier, male breast cancer both have mutations in BRCA1 and BRCA2, 90% of the time. Another hereditary cancer gene is your APC gene and familial adenomatous polyposis. In APC, patients usually develop hundreds of thousands of polyps in the colon and rectum. It usually appears in adolescent period, and we all know polyps progresses to colon cancer. So once they detected polyps in colon or rectum, they immediately perform total proctocolectomy or proctocolectomy to remove, again, the chances of having colon cancer in the future. Now, familial adenomatous polyposis in patients who have FAP, aside from having upper intestinal neoplasms, they also have hepatobiliary tumors, thyroid carcinomas, extraintestinal neoplasms, medulloblastomas, and desmoid tumors. So, for FAP, mas mahirap siyang i-manage as compared to your APC gene. So how do we now assess these types of patients? As I have said earlier, you look for the factors that will suggest you are dealing with hereditary cancers. And again, you do a complete history and physical examination. And part of that complete history is to ask for environmental exposure to potential carcinogens. And also a detailed family history. Kasi napaka-importante niyan. To be able for you to actually diagnose patients with hereditary cancer. You need to have a complete history. One good tool that we can use is actually seen in Schwartz, table 10.8. You have assessment of risk for invasive breast cancer, and you try to compute for the relative risk. Kung mataas ang relative risk nyo, then maybe you should need to have it look, baka, especially sa mga doctoras natin here, you need to look at this, try to compute for the relative risk, baka mataas. So as early as now, we can try to assess you, and then kung kailangan i-manage, then we manage as early as now, para hindi na mag-progress into malignancy. So again, I encourage everybody, especially the doctors here, to look it up sa Schwartz on table 10.8 and try to compute for your relative risk. So how do we diagnose cancer? The definitive diagnosis of solid tumors is biopsy. Okay? Wala na. It may either be an open technique, your incision or excision, or a core needle biopsy. Basta ang what is important is to be able to diagnose cancer, you need to have biopsy. Because biopsy determines the tumor histology and grade. It will assist you in definitive therapeutic planning. This is very true because if you have a very high histologic grade ng tumor ninyo, then you need to also be very aggressive in your therapeutic planning. Hindi po pwedeng your usual management sa cancer. Kasi kung histologic grade mataas, ibig sabihin the tumor is also very aggressive. So you need also to be aggressive in surgery and also adjuvant treatment. As with all cancer, you need to stage first your patient before you proceed with management, because staging will dictate what type of management you will do. So cancer staging is a system used to describe the anatomic extent of malignant process in certain individual patient. It incorporates relevant clinical prognostic factors such as the tumor size, the location, extent, grade, and dissemination to regional lymph nodes or distant metastases. So, staging is very important. No? Kasi, as I've said earlier, staging will dictate, no, what type of management you will do. If the stage of the patient is still early, no, stage 1 or 2, then our goal is to cure the patient. If the stage of the patient is already late, no, stage 4, then our goal is to palliate, to prolong the quality of life, no, not to do any aggressive treatment kasi baka mas lalong mabilis mamatay yung pasyente niyo. No, kung stage 4 na and you give chemotherapy or you do a massive surgery, no, extensive surgery, baka mas lalong mo pang pinadali yung buhay ng pasyente ninyo. No? So, staging the patient before you do any management is very important. So, what do we use? No? We use the AJCC or American Joint Cancer Committee. This is the most widely accepted staging system. Madali lang siya. The AJCC uses three anatomic a more specific term, no? Your T and M, no? T for the size of the primary tumor, the N for nodal status, and M for metastasis. Ganun lang siya. AJCC, you use T and M. T for tumor size, N for nodal status, and M for metastasis. Ganun lang siya. No? No need for you to know kung ano yung what is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. No? At your level, I think masyadong nang advance yun. No? So what is important at your level is to know, no, the basics of staging, no, what we use, no, and ano yung ginagamit natin, how to define the staging, the T and M. So T for tumor size, N for nodal metastasis, and metastasis. Okay, so tumor markers is also a good tool in helping us in planning management for our patient. Tumor markers are substances that can be detected in higher than normal amounts in serum, urine, or tissues of patients with certain types of cancer. Now, remember, doctors, we do not request tumor markers to diagnose a specific cancer. Okay? Tumor markers are used as a prognostic marker or a predictive marker. Hindi natin siya ginagamit, no? Hindi tayo magre-request. Pa-request ka nga ng tumor marker para ma-diagnose natin siya ng colon or rectal cancer. No. We do not use tumor markers, no, with that certain goal, no? Ang goal natin when we use tumor markers is to identify prognostic markers that can provide us information on the prognosis, no? Kasi ang tumor markers, if we use that as a prognostic marker, no, kunwari masyadong mataas yung tumor marker mo, then we can actually say, predict that this patient will not achieve a disease-free survival. Disease-free state kasi masyadong mataas yung marker. The patient may either be in stage 4 or late stage cancer. Now, kung predictive marker naman, is used in the context of predicting response to certain therapies. Kung masyadong mataas yung tumor marker mo, then we can also say that we need to be aggressive, no? Dito sa mga pasyente na kailangan natin bigay itong chemo na ito kasi ito ang tama for these types of patients. So, again, tumor markers will assist us in lots of ways, no? As a prognostic marker and predictive marker, but not as a diagnostic tool. Okay? Doon kasi madalas nagkakamali ang mga interns. Okay, so some examples of your tumor markers. You have prostatic-specific antigen. The urologists use this as after prostatic cancer treatment, after removing the prostate. No? They use this to monitor recurrence. No? Kung after surgery, no, tumataas ba siya ulit, then baka merong recurrence. CEA is also used for colon and rectal cancer, no? Also to monitor recurrence, no? So what we usually do kami mga surgeons is we request, no, kung cancer patient, we request pre-op, no? We expect that to be high, and then you do your surgery, and then adjuvant treatment. Then after that, you request again for tumor marker. You expect that to be low. Kasi natanggal mo yung cancer, no? You address the spread. Now, kung pre-op mataas, you do surgery, no? And then post-op mataas pa rin, then may problem. You have a very big problem. Kasi it simply means that meron ka kagad recurrence or mali ang staging mo. You did a underestimation of the staging. Baka akala mo stage 2 pa lang siya or 3, yung pala stage 4 na. So that is a very big problem. Okay? I think that is my last slide. Any questions, doctors?